pookiedemic is easy to solve. Stop having sex with Pookie. Marry before you carry. That would eliminate 75% of the bickering and complaining and issues we see going on in Black America today would be eliminated if Pookie stopped having all these kids out of wedlock and the KEISHA stopped choosing the Pookie. Like that would, but I'm saying it's like we have to get to the core of what's going on, because it can't just be it's Jermaine's fault all the time. Because if we just blame Jermaine all the time, then we're actually not looking at what's going on. And what we're seeing is that there are Black women who are choosing these men, and then there are these men who are irresponsibly going around and creating these kids. And of course, we already know these men and women who are doing this themselves are oftentimes a product of that environment. A man who fathered multiple kids and multiple women is not going to be there for the children. There's likely to be children that he has that repeat his cycle because they don't know what else to do. A woman who doesn't have a father around is likely to be more sexually promiscuous. She's likely to try to find her identity in other men and other boys who show her attention. She's likely to give up the goodies too soon. Therefore, she's likely herself to get pregnant too soon and by a dude or by another child who doesn't know any better, and the cycle continues. So like I said, some of the stuff is a vicious cycle. It is, but it could be stopped. But I think before there's even these conversations about fixing these things, there has to first be an understanding of what's really going on. And we can't sit here and say that it's all Jermaine's fault. It's really not. There is blame to be assigned to some, and there's blame to be assigned to some Black men, but it's not all of Jermaine's fault. And there's also definitely some blame to be assigned to the KEISHAs, right? Like there has to be balance here. There has to be clarity on what's actually going on if there is ever to be a significant change. 32% of Black fathers in America have kids with multiple women. 59% of Black mothers in America have kids with multiple fathers. There's a significant difference. What we are seeing is there is a small percentage of Black men who are fathering a lot of kids. And then there is a large portion of Black women who are choosing a minority of men. That is also going on. So when we want to assign blame to Jermaine and we want to assign blame to Black men, we have to be very clear that it's a minority. But we also have to be very clear that Black women who are doing that, the Black women who are falling into that cycle, also must see the way in which they are participating in the problem. There's culpability on both sides. And like I said, if we really want to be petty, 59% of Black women are the ones doing that stuff. 59% versus 32%, if you want to sit here and play tit for tat, that's a significant difference. So I hope that is clear. And yes, you said, again, 54% of Black men are like, ain't no kids. Like, they're not even in the conversation. The majority of Black men starting off with this whole deadbeat baby daddy, the majority of Black men who are in this deadbeat baby daddy situation aren't even in the conversation. Like, they're not even there because they don't have kids. They shouldn't even be in the room. So already when we're talking about deadbeat baby daddies, we're referring to a minority of men. That's what I'm saying. It's like we're so quick to assign blame to just blatant statements. It causes misunderstanding. It causes a lot of dissension. You got women who are projecting their issues on other men, projecting their issues. They're being embittered at Black men as a whole. They got trust issues with Black men as a whole, and they're not understanding that it's like, honey, that's not even all Black men. Honey, you got daddy issues. Honey, you're upset. You're sad. You know what I mean? And, so again, Black men are more likely to have no kids. 54%. Black women are more likely to have 2 or more. I posted this on the community tab. No kids. 54% Black men, no kids. 39% Black women, no kids. Significant amount, significant difference. And this is looking at numbers under age 50. Okay. Now, this part I thought was really interesting. This part in particular, because this was updated, to my understanding, this was updated in 2025. So just last month it was updated. It says these statistics reflect self-reported data Idiot. So basically it's just saying, take it all with a grain of salt. Every stat, you take it all with a grain of salt. These are usually never perfect metrics, but they are more a guide, right? That's what this part is saying. Now it says there are over 307,000 more Black women than men. So over 300,000 Black women than men currently. Over 300,000 Black women than men currently in America. Despite this, however, there are more than 500,000 married Black men and Black women, basically. There are more than 500,000 men, Black men are married than Black women. More than 500,000 Black men are married than Black women. So more Black men are married than Black women, although less Black men exist. Like there are less Black American men who are like physically here in existence. However, they are still more married. So even these narratives about like, oh, Black women don't want to commit, Black men are, where are the good Black men? They're non-committal, they're not serious, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, we have to actually go back to the numbers. And the numbers are telling us that that's not true. Because although there are less Black men, they are more married than Black women today. These stats were updated February last month. So this part is pretty up to date. What's going on, Dr. Thunder? So good to see you in the building. Good to see you. Okay, so if we continue here, it says, Black men are twice as likely to marry outside of their race than Black women. We've already known this to be true. Now again, that's still not, that stat alone may sound incredibly significant, but by and large, we still know that Black men are married and are the most interested in Black women, even with all the stuff going on today. Okay, this one says also, according to the report, there were 1 million more Black women with children than Black men. So basically, like we said, there are about 300,000 more Black women in existence right now than Black men. That's what this stat over here said. I think they're keeping it at a certain age range. But there are over 300,000 Black women than men. However, Black women have 1 million more children than Black men. Black women have 1 million more children than Black men. Black women have 1 million more children than Black men currently. 1 million more children. So Black women are creating more children. Black women are creating more children. 54% of Black men right now don't even have kids. And then of those Black men who do have kids, 32% of those Black men have kids with multiple women. We're talking about a minority of a minority. 1 million is a lot. I agree. 1 million is a lot. 1 million is a lot. So the reason I'm bringing all this stuff up is because when we want to sit here and say,
men accountable, hold Black men accountable, hold them accountable.
We sit here and say that, and we can tell that is a scorned woman. I hope she's able to work things out with her dad. She's obviously very angry. So I understand like the anger, the passion, the emotions, and feeling like dad isn't there that's very painful. And there's a lot of women who can trauma bond on that. And there's a lot of bitter and upset baby mamas who have drama with their baby daddies. And so they're loud and they're vocal. And then these narratives go out about Black men as a whole. But what we're not understanding, or what isn't being clearly distinguished, is that those Black men they're complaining about are the pookies, quote unquote. The ones who are more likely to be incarcerated and the ones who are more likely to be involved in drugs. That's what the study said, the ones that I showed you guys earlier. You guys can go back and catch the replay. I broke it down. We looked at this 8-page scientific study that looked at basically men who had multiple kids. It said Black men in that study were the most likely to have multiple kids compared to other men, other races of men. And then they said those Black men who had kids were more likely to be incarcerated and were more likely to struggle with drugs. So, like I said, what that study is showing us is that these women are actually procreating with a minority of men, 32%. Again, 32% of Black fathers have multiple kids. And then those men struggle with incarceration and drugs. Like they don't display qualities that are inherent of being a good father or man. I understand Pookie can be redeemed. I'm not saying that some of those guys don't get them stuff together. But many a times when those kids is being created, these ladies aren't doing it because, oh, I want this man shows that he can be a good father to my child. This man has vision. This man has good morals. He's a man of God. You ladies are always talking about loving a man of God, but they're not choosing men of God to have their babies with. They want those men oftentimes actually after they have kids with the pookies. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so that's what I'm saying. We're blaming Jermaine when Jermaine ain't doing this stuff. Pookie's doing this stuff. Pookie's the 32% at best. It's not Jermaine's fault. 54% of y'all is Jermaine. The 54% that ain't even got kids. And you're not even in the room. You don't even have kids. Aren't even married. Aren't even in a relationship. Or just trying to find a decent woman. And like I said, y'all catching strays. They're telling you.
Black men accountable. Hold them accountable.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It was like, we have to really start to be honest with these conversations. Yes, there are black men out there who are doing some bad stuff and it's creating a lot of trauma in the community. And there are black women who are also doing that and are choosing these men. If you go back and look at like the first 10 minutes of this live, I shared this video of this content creator. She does all these viral stories about jail and this Pookie life and baby daddy stuff. But she sat there and told it herself and talked about how she was delusional and how when she was picking a man, she was picking a man that she thought would look cute in photos. She said that out of her mouth. She admitted it. She put her own self on blast. So I'm saying, I was like, these ladies, they have these kids, they have them really young. They're not necessarily, because some of them even have these kids super young, like before 20, in their teens or whatever. So their brain isn't thinking about like long-term vision, legacy, like, what's going to give this child the best. These are kids themselves. And then that creates a vicious cycle. So, like I said, the pookidemic is super easy. It's really easy it's a really, really easy thing to solve. We could solve the pookidemic if folks started marrying before they carry, that alone, and stop sleeping with Pookie. Like, it's actually a very simple fix. It is a very simple fix. It's a very simple fix. But as we see, like I said, the numbers alone don't lie. We can sit here and say all we want, that black men are doing all this stuff, they're horrible, yada yada yada, and they're deadbeats, whatever. But it's like, you got black men out here who aren't even in the like I said, no kids. Majority of black men in America right now don't even have kids, right? And we're looking at the ages 15 to 49. So the majority of men who are like in marrying age, procreating age, they don't even have kids. They're not even in the conversation. So already we're starting off at a minority. And then when you start looking at the numbers again, black men are more married than black women, and they have less kids than black women, which is crazy. So it's like black women are the least married, are less married than black men at this age, but they got more kids, and that's saying a lot.